Flying over Cape Town, you eventually hit an invisible boundary. On one side, the densely packed tin roofs of Nomzamo. Meters away, the massive mansions and manicured lawns of Strand. Crossing this single street drops a person's life expectancy by 7 full years. This map compares the racial demographic boundaries of South Africa in 1959 on the left to those in 2020 on the right. Despite a 60-year gap, the physical lines separating these neighborhoods are almost perfectly identical. This is despite the fact that Nelson Mandela was freed and apartheid was legally abolished over 30 years ago, resulting in a completely new constitution. It raises a difficult question. How does a nation remain this perfectly segregated decades after making racism illegal? Apartheid functioned as a physical and economic architecture. While laws were repealed with a pen, the physical design of the country remained in place. The roots of this design go back to 1886. The discovery of gold and diamond reserves transformed South Africa into a highly profitable European colony almost overnight. Extracting that wealth required massive amounts of cheap labor. But because Black Africans owned their own land and cattle, they had no economic reason to work in the grueling conditions of a mineshaft. To solve this, the government employed a strategy of socio-racial engineering, a plan to strip Black wealth to force the population into dependency. The state bulldozed thriving communities like District 6 and seized 87% of the country's land, pushing Black populations into barren outskirts. These new borders were enforced by passbooks. These documents turned cities into mobile jails, where Black citizens could only legally enter to provide labor. The Bantu Education Act brought this design into the classroom by dictating exactly what was taught in schools. Advanced math and science were removed from the curriculum for Black children. The state intentionally capped their education to ensure they could follow orders, but never lead. Apartheid functioned as a corporate strategy to artificially manufacture a landless, uneducated working class. By the 1980s, the system began to fracture. Images of police firing on protesting students reached a global audience, damaging South Africa's international standing. Massive international boycotts and a withdrawal of foreign investments squeezed the white minority, causing the internal economy to falter. When Nelson Mandela was released, he inherited a country where his party held the political mandate, but the white minority still controlled 99% of the corporate wealth. To prevent a civil war and total economic collapse, the new government agreed to Section 25 of the Constitution, which protected existing property rights. The primary hurdle for land reform: the government could only return stolen property if purchased back from white owners at full market price. Because the state budget was a fraction of the total land value, the government lacked capital to buy back the real estate. By prioritizing national stability in 1994, the transition secured a democratic vote, but left the existing economic foundations of the country exactly as they were. This visualization shows the current distribution of land in South Africa. 80% of the Black population remains concentrated on just 4% of the country's land. Meanwhile, the white population, just 8% of the people, still controls 72% of the land. The overt symbols of the past have faded away. You won't find passports or segregation signs in modern South African cities. Physical force is no longer required to maintain the boundaries of the slums. Income disparity and a lack of generational wealth now perform the same function as the previous laws. When inequality is encoded into a nation's geography and capital structures, hateful laws are no longer necessary. The system continues to produce the same outcomes through its own internal logic.